what's changed with fire in 6,000 years? Well, absolutely nothing. Fire is sacred in the context that fire has no ambiguity. There's no agenda. It is pure, it is honest, it is terrifying, but it is powerful. Now, if we respect that fire, we can do wonderful things with that.
Welcome to Ancient Spiritual Podcast, where we are going to speak about everything Ireland, everything ancient, and all the magic that comes with it.
So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Ancient Spiritual Podcast. We've got myself and Dee, and we're delighted to be joined by Tom King, the blacksmith of the Bohemien. How are you doing, Tom?
Oh, it's Misha Gobhá, Carol. Thank you so much. Good evening, Dee. Good evening, Carol. And good evening to your listeners from the Forge of the Smooth Road, Slieve Ashel, ancient corridor to the Hill of Tara.
We are so excited to have the blacksmith experience as part of our Samhain 2026 tour, Tom. And so we'd absolutely love to hear more about yourself, who you are, and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be my pleasure, Carol. You know, it's an amazing journey when you look at it in the context. Everyone has their own personal journey. Everyone has their obstacles that they have to overcome. Everybody will come to junctions, you know, or a crossroads, and you take a path. Sure, at times they may be the wrong ones, but the one thing or the lesson from that is the experience gained from that experience. So, look, we're navigating a journey through life where I've hit a significant milestone, a significant crossroads, where I'm blessed to be actually living a dream, shall we say. From a very, very early age, I was always mechanical minded, artistic, creativity, you know, was very, very natural in my world. So, you know, long story short, we come to a point in our life, shall we say, that, you know, I graduated in England as a design engineer and banked 20 odd years of senior design engineering in the normal world, shall we say, before the dreaded COVID or the lockdown struck. And lo and behold, again, you know, you have to remember, my friends, you know, there are two types of people in life. The first type of personality can be described almost like the default miserable. No matter what the circumstances is, no matter what the story is, there's some negative narrative that can be very, you know, crippling or non-encouraging, shall we say. And then there's the other aspect of it, the positive polys, those people that can actually, you know, encourage, that can support you, that can make your dream reality and basically give you that opportunity where if you just knuckle down and work hard at something, it can bear a lot of fruit. In my world, it's been absolutely overwhelming, the response and the context since the lockdown. I got a phone call from HR to say, Tom, please stay at home, don't come into the office tomorrow. You know, a lot of the office staff, we're asking them to stay at home, and we will be in contact and we'll discuss your employment situation. So without further ado, even in the same day, I started preparing my Celtic jewellery for Instagram and Facebook. I've always been working in the background as an artist, as a maker, but here I have opportunity to really kind of push this, you know, my craft online and work in a civilized time rather than do a day's work and then come home to the studio or the workshop and work from 7 o'clock until ridiculous o'clock. So long story short, I started pushing my artwork online on Facebook and in Instagram, and the feedback had just been substantial. It became quite overwhelming with the opportunity that people were actually dialing into very authentic, substantial, you know, genuine Celtic jewellery from the heart of the Boyne Valley as a maker. So I was gaining quite a momentum online, and a real dear good friend of mine based in France, his name was Davo Grin, and his uncle is Christy Moore. Now, Davog is in the entertainment business for the last 37, 38 years, so he's quite natural regarding the guitar and the mouth harp and the bowron and the singing and the poetry. His uncle, Christy, the same, a man that made a career out of it, a full lifetime working at that type of entertainment. And Davog is based in France, and Davog reached out and said, Tom, I want to come to the Forge. I want to bring Colm Keating, who's based in Dublin. He's a photographer. I want to come out to the Forge and we want to have an evening and take some photographs. And Davog asked me, have you got a costume? And the answer was, no, I don't have a costume. So long story short, I met Davog in Navan, the local town, and we ended up in Harry Curry's, the drapery store. looking for fake sheepskin rugs. And we located the fake sheepskin rugs, and we got a knife and we cut it down the middle. And Dabuk says it's way too clean. Back to the forge, and we got it off the dirty concrete in the shed and gave it a bit of personality. We put it over my head. We got the photographs. We got them online, and all of a sudden, boom! It just exploded.
Gobhá was born.
Yeah, Gobhá was born. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I mean, when you look at it in the context of a business or an opportunity, in the context as someone that has self-employed, here I specialize in a very authentic making the early Celtic spirals, the triskells, the penannular brooches, the torques, all that type of ancient ceremonial jewelry. And then I have the commission maker as well, which will specialize in an ancient Celtic themed specialized figurines or private commissions. And then we have the bladesmith as well, which is the spears, the swords and the shields. And again, we take on the mantle of Gobhá, the blacksmith at the Boyne Valley. Now, not only are we the maker, but we're the immersive experience provider, because when I think of the very ground where I'm based on right here, right now, I'm in a little village called Bohemond. And Bohemond is a very, very important village in the context of an ancient Ireland. If we think of ancient Ireland was broken up into the 5 smooth corridors that brought the clans from Ulster, from Connacht, and from Munster, all the way to Sacred Tara. Each of those 5 corridors was given an Irish title. Bohemond is named after one of these corridors. It's named after the Slieve Ashel corridor, which is a gateway to the west. And we know, according to myth and legend, the great and beautiful and powerful Queen Maeve came from Sligo, crossing Ireland, heading to the Hill of Tara, coming through this little village. The little village is named after the ancient Slieve Ashel corridor, and that's very, very important. We're also blessed to have a section of that corridor preserved here at the forge on the farm. So when I have my guests coming to the forge, not only do they have the forge experience, but when we walk through the woods at night, when we walk with the fire torches, we walk through a section of the woodlands or the ancient corridor, and we can sit and pause in a moment of silence for 20 minutes, for an hour if you wish, just to hear yourself think and dial into that ancient world and think about the very ground you're sat on or walking on. The great Queen Maeve passed through with her tua, coming all the way from Sligo, having spent 5 weeks on the back of a horse. That's pretty substantial, because that's the one thing, or one of the unique selling points I have here at the Forge. When people learn about ancient Ireland or the ancient Celts, it's very easy to use words. Now, if you use words to create an experience, that's up to yourself then to, innovate that experience by your own expression or by your own creativity. But that can be comfortable in a warm house where you have a fire or you have a table or you have a chair. Now, if I say to you, come to the forge and sit at the forge in a Baltic evening where there's a storm, where there's very little to minimal shelter. So how different would that be to the clans of 4,000 years ago? Well, it would be actually very, very similar. So that means there's a disconnect then between our world that we've become accustomed to, we've dialed into it so well, our system has calibrated to that. Whereas if we lift yourself out of that world and come to my world, I want you to dress up in tunic. I want you to wear the sheepskins. I want you to get yourself warm with a very primitive dress, but I want you to feel the weather, taste the atmosphere, taste the fog, almost, feel that very natural, very earthy feel by being at a forge or by being in the woods on a stormy night where the wind is blowing or where the moon is shining in. Now, if we're walking through the woods there at night with the fire torches, if I say to my friends, well, what's changed with fire in 6,000 years? Well, absolutely nothing. Fire is sacred in the context that fire has no ambiguity. There's no agenda. It is pure, it is honest, it is terrifying, but it is powerful. Now, if we respect that fire, we can do wonderful things with that. So you can imagine long ago when the Stone Age people navigated into the Iron Age people, there had to have been an R&D department in the Stone Age. So these people were inventing or they were experimenting, most of which failed. But their own optimism and their enthusiasm developed a point in history where there was a eureka moment where they made the bloomeries, they created the blooms, and all of a sudden outpoured this molten bloom, solidified, and here we have primitive iron. Now, could you just imagine the excitement with the clans back thousands of years ago when that bloom was presented to the hierarchy, to the kings and the queens of the clan saying, hey, boss, look what we've found. Look what we've developed. This is so exciting that we're not depending now on stone or on wood or on bone or on antler. The technology is elevating or innovating its way to a next level, which this is revolutionary, where we can protect our people, protect our women, protect our children. We can defend everything that's sacred and near and dear to us, because can you imagine in ancient Ireland when an argument got to a certain point that words was never going to resolve it? We now go to the next phase where a blade is presented. Now, if you can imagine a blade used in a context of a row where all of a sudden there's a dead body lying on the ground, and now there's, a bit of regret, but their natural instinct is to defend or to take or to conquer. So there's no sentimentality about it for much longer than almost whatever number of hours, where it's very much a necessity. It's part of life. If you can imagine the King of Tara or the Hill of Tara, if there was a coup taken on to try and take over the seat, take over the throne, and that coup failed from the clans of Munster or Ulster, can you imagine what happened to those warriors in the context of a punishment as an example made to the people of Ireland? You could be talking about corridors of spears with their warriors' heads on these spears. So the people of Ireland would look upon that and say, right, you try and take over the throne of Tara, and this is what happens. So here at the Forge, my friends, it's very much here a very earthy, a very honest, a very authentic experience, because fire is my best friend here. And that's what I use as the centerpiece, where my guests will see the works being produced, and then it's their turn.
Yeah, we experienced that.
I think I went 4 or 5 minutes without taking a breath there. I hope I didn't go too long.
It's safe to say
you're on fire, Tom.
I'm on fire, yes.
Fire was the difference between life and death.
Correct and right.
People,
yeah, and if you can imagine now, particularly now, and it's a great example now, you see, when we think of not our time, but think of the ancient time in the context of, we've just passed Samhain. So now we've got that sacred period between Samhain and the run up now to a solstice, and more importantly now, only 4 or 5 weeks away from, again, Imbolc. So we're in that kind of zone where we're in the heart of the storm, where it's wet, where it's muddy, where it's dark, where it's
survival time.
It's a survival. Can you imagine the families talking among themselves in the context of the huts and looking after the children, scolding children that left the hut and getting their hides wet, getting their feet wet, getting their leather wet. And now we've got a child here with athlete's foot of the Neolithic time. And now we've got a problem where we have to use the foraging berries to make up a potion in order to to alter the skin, or to try and prepare a poultice to try and heal those that may be in pain. So, there's very much a community orientated now between now and, Imbolc, where there is a noticeable stretch in the evening, but not just yet. We're still in the very heart and the bowels of a winter, of a cold, of a wet, of a dark and muddy period. So it's very much fires, firewood is all stored, the food stocks are in good order, animals are in, there's possibly an animal being slaughtered once every 2 or 3 weeks just to keep the families going. So again, it's just all about authenticity, to try and bring that to life and let people enjoy that.
Yeah, and you do that very well.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah. We enjoyed our time with you as well.
Oh, you're very kind. Well, it's, you see, there comes a point in Irish mythology and reading or writing or talking about ancient Ireland. Can you imagine when someone just says, like the sports, equipment supplier, just do it? Imagine if someone says, just do ancient Ireland. Well, what does just do ancient Ireland mean? Well, you're not talking about it now. You're working it. You're becoming it. You're making it real. When I work the fires, when I have the vessel full of water, when that's all harmonized, I don't feel the cold. I remember coming down here to the Forge there last Christmas, and there was about 6 inches of snow sitting on the anvil because the front of the Forge is quite exposed to the elements. And I remember thinking, oh, this isn't just cricket. So I got the forge lit, and I had order to work on and to ship that week. So I didn't have much time to think about the sentimentality or the romanticism of it. I just thought in my head, get at it, go do. So here I have the forge lit. I get my right hand and I wipe the snow off the anvil, and the anvil is exposed. Forge is lit, iron is in the forge, iron is getting hot, iron is worked off the anvil, and all of a sudden I am in a t-shirt. And I have my trousers on as well. Oh, hey.
That's a relief, Tom.
There's an image I can't just get rid of. So I'm in my t-shirt and my jeans working away, and it's frosty and there's a lot of snow out, and I'm perspiring because fire will not wait for you. You have to catch up and work the fire. There's no agenda when a fire is burning. It's just going to burn. Now, you got to keep at the pace of that fire. If you don't keep with it, it becomes overwhelming and you'll spoil work, or your performance is quite hindered. I'm quite keen. I'm quite a performer, and I'm very proud of a performance at a forge, especially when I'm on my own. If I say, right, I've got a festival coming up in 2 weeks' time, I've got to get through this amount of work, and I really will set myself a target. I'm like a marathon runner sitting down saying, right, I know how to do and run 26 miles, and I can run 26 miles in a certain time. Well, let's try and knock 2 minutes off that time for our next performance. I'm always that kind of performer at the forge, where when I have the forge lit, the last thing I want to happen is that the forge is burning, but there's no irons in the fire, or I'm not working the anvil. For my KPIs and that, the key performance indicators in my engineering world, when I bring that into my world, I have a forge with a good fire. I have 6 or 7 irons in the fire at once. 2 or 3 is coming on where I can work them. I'm back at the anvil working away. So I'm working the anvil while irons are getting hot. When the heat is lost at the anvil and I put that iron back into the fire, there is iron ready to be collected to be worked at the anvil. So now I've got this process where it really is a top performance, and that takes energy, it takes effort, and I could go through 4, 5 or 6 bottles of water a day just by hydration, perspiring, again, a performance. And you know what? There is nothing like it. There is an adrenaline with it. You really have a buzz with it. Your physical state, you really do appreciate your physicality or a workout. And you're thinking of the people of ancient Ireland. Again, they hadn't the luxury of being able to flick a switch and a fan blows and charges a fire. Some poor sod had to be working the belly of a cow, open, lift, close, push. Open, lift, close, push. And that bellows was charging a fire, all very primitive, but getting an iron hot nonetheless. So the same process is what we do now. It goes back thousands of years, but we're a little bit more efficient with it now because we have electric fan and we can press it and switch it on. But ultimately, it's the same hardiness. And there's a lovely experience, because if we said to each other, oh, it's very cold today, or it's wet, if you work a forge, you don't even think like that. You think of the work that has to be done, or what you're trying to work on to get finished to go on to the next project. The weather doesn't matter. And if it's raining, if it's freezing, if it's snow, it doesn't matter. Your physicality and your mental state is so refined and so strong. It is the best medicine ever, because you're not thinking about the negatives or the what ifs or what I need. Because if you go into that space in your mind, all of a sudden, you'll get a cold. You're going to have some condition where you need a tablet. You don't want that. Yeah. If you have a mental and physical strength and have a really good, positive and strong attitude, you can do absolute anything. It's just put your mind, or get your mind into that zone, and it's incredible.
The reason you can say that is because you have found your true passion. You've
absolutely
found your purpose, and you go into this space where you're in flow.
Without a doubt.
And that
absolutely.
That is what powers you.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, and you can imagine, Dee, can you imagine the clans of ancient Ireland? Now, there's harmony when it comes to the festivals, and everybody can put their swords and shields away, and we can have a jolly good banquet, and we can really enjoy company and really enjoy family and friends. But there are those occasions where there's hostility. There's nervousness, there's anxiety. Why? Because a certain clan is on the move, or they want to take a territory, and they're going to do it forcefully. Now, if the head of the clans in Leinster and Ulster and Connacht or Munster is getting so worried that the word on the street that there could be invasion of 300 warriors coming on horseback to take the plains of Meath, well, now the order is given to the ironworkers to get your gear ready, get those warriors armed up with really high quality swords, shields, spears, slings, any of the ancient world, ancient weapons. Now, if I got talking in the ancient world, eye to eye to one of the top warriors of the Leinster clans, for example, the local brigade here, and these individuals, they're risking their neck to protect the women and the children and the people of their tuas, the clans. But these people are placing their life in your hands as a maker. And that cannot be taken lightly or for granted. So that means when I go and make the sword, make the spear or the shield, that I put my heart and soul into it. I almost look, if you think of the Gobhá of the ancient world, where there's the spirituality, you're looking to the ancestors to bless these weapons so that the hand that may use them can defend the clans, all in a positive, not in a negative or an intrusive way, but just defend our people. We must be able to defend our people. Now, that means when that weapon is made, it's made to the highest caliber or quality. So when it is in the hand of the warrior that will defend the clans, that weapon will do exactly what it's meant to do and more. If it's a weapon that's substandard or breaks, or it's not just of quality, there is no confidence in the Gobhá and the blacksmith. And that's a very, very dangerous place to be, because now your rank in the community has been shattered. There's no confidence. You're not a hierarchy among the kings or the queens, because if you're a king or a queen, you've got power and you've got reign over a considerable territory and considerable number of people. But the high rank in that community are the people who work their hands, particularly the blacksmith. Because if you think of the woodworker, if you think of the stonemason, if you think of the leather worker, these people will come to the blacksmith and say, I need a certain tool in shape or a certain performance. Okay, let's make it and provide. So you satisfy that market. Now, if you think of the warrior, these people are coming that are putting their neck on the line to defend you and your people and, obey an order from a king or a queen. Now, if you can imagine the plains of Tara, if there was an argument or a battle where the clans have come and fought, and the clans that are relevant to the Onghawa in the Leinster division all of a sudden are victorious. Now, can you imagine the celebrations of Tara there in the context of, the joyous occasions of winning? And everybody has a harmony of positivity. Oh, let's have a special mention for Onghawa, the blacksmith. And again, the blacksmith is held in such a high esteem here that you are almost of a royal status because you are so blessed with your making, but the spirituality in the context of the blades that you produce, that you are reliable and there is confidence. That is an incredible experience that I believe no words can possibly do it. Possibly explained in Irish where there's a wider vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I better stop talking for a minute.
Funnily enough, I was going to ask you about the role of the blacksmith in ancient Ireland, and you've made that question redundant by answering it already. It's huge when you give it some thought, isn't it?
It's absolutely critical, Carol. When you think of the responsibility, can you imagine if the clans of Leinster here says, right, there's 25 high-class, top-quality warriors, ladies and gents, all have different abilities of fighting and weaponry requests, and that order is in with the ironworker here, and we look through the list and say, right, that's a substantial list of kit. Each one of those weapons has to be absolutely top quality, reliable, and does exactly what it's meant to do and more. Now, when you produce that type of weaponry, that means there's incredible thrust given to you as a maker. That means I can charge off on the horse. I can go on days on end, going into territories that I'm not familiar with, having that confidence to be able to take on a fight and knowing that I can do my best without any worry in the weapons involved because I've got a reliable maker. That means everything.
There's a practical reality here. Whilst ancient Ireland is rightly known as the land of saints and scholars, and there's an emphasis on education and
Correct.
the Brehon law, and
Correct.
the way that society evolved and the community, and there's also a responsibility to defend your property, defend the
Without a
land,
doubt.
and defend the women and the children. And you
Yes.
see that in a lot of the places we go to on the tours. You see
Correct.
the modern day, shall we say, remains of what was
Correct.
there before. And whilst
Correct.
we don't understand or know fully what happened, we can start putting together the pieces with the evidence that's left behind, whether it's from archaeology
Of
or
course.
whether it's tuning in sort of through meditation or tuning in through our imagination. Yeah.
Correct. Can you imagine, Carol and Dee, and my friends online listening in? Can you imagine a civilization so early in its days that the landscape is still very much a woodland landscape? There's a lot of growth, there's a lot of trees, a lot of shrubs. It's very much a wilderness. But now we have generations of people who are, working the land or clearing spaces to plant the crops. And now we have a space of ground that now is able to be tilled, the soil turned, and again go through that ceremony in the context of the ancient calendar, going from the Imbol, going to the Bealtaine, celebrating the Bealtaine where the soil is turned and the seed is planted and the seed starts to grow. And that critical period between Bealtaine and Lunasa, where they pray to the gods and goddesses for the right amount of sun, not too much, not too little, looking for the right amount of rain, not too much and not too little. And then the celebrating at Lunasa, where the gathering of the crops in, and we have this mammoth celebration and banquet. Now that's been established over generations. Now you can imagine a tua or a clan that gets a little bit now too confident, saying, right, let's say we gather 40 or 50 troops and we can invade certain territories, that we can just take this for ourselves in the swipe of a sword or the throw of a spear. Why? Because of personality, because of brash and brazen and boldness, no respect of how long it took to get that land into the shape it is now, because of several generations that it would have taken to clear the woodlands, clear the ditches, prepare the soil, prepare tapestry of fields. That was very much the prowess and the pride of these clans according to their traditions. So you can see where the hostility would be if there was an invasion with warrior on horse just coming through the hedgerow into small communities and just basically taking over and kidnapping and hijacking this just because they can, because they've got the strength and they've got the fight. That's why it was so important for the clans to be prepared, be able to fight to the death, to defend that property, defend that people. And unfortunately, a lot of Irish history has that story of invasion and the invaders, where it was not always a very, harmonious atmosphere or condition. It was quite wicked. You can imagine now in the depth of your sleep at night, and all of a sudden the dog starts to bark, the animals start getting unrest, the horses are giddy, something's not right, and all of a sudden, bang! Wow, there's bodies and there's blood. Not a nice thing to imagine, but that was ancient Ireland. Got to defend the clans.
Mhm.
So when we bring our beautiful, amazing people to come and share in the Angawa experience,
Yes.
are you going to be making weapons with them?
What I'll be doing is I'll be making my jewelry. And I'm
Fantastic.
sure that there'll be some elements of weapons on site in progress. Certainly, we can have a chat, but just for the durations of the tour, I will have all my pendants pre-set out, all ready, so that my guests will see demonstrations from start to finish. They'll see the skill set of what I've developed from working a pendant from start to finish. And once that visual is experienced and that generates a bit of excitement, then it's my guests' turn then to take the anvil, to take the tongs, to take the hammer, to place the iron into the fire, to take the iron from the fire onto the anvil and work the anvil.
Yeah.
And what sort of emotional experience does that provide for them, have you seen?
They will be lifted from the shoes they are stood in, my friends. Because you know what? It is genuine, it is authentic. You know, when I talk about the fire, what's changed with fire in thousands of years? Absolutely nothing. When you work a fire and when you have the respect and the control of a fire, and now you're in a zone there where you know you can apprehend the dangers, but there's an adrenaline rush. There's a natural adrenaline rush when you stand beside a forge. When a fire is charged with the air and it's got that ferocity, now you are in control where you place the iron
It's
into the heart of the
serious.
forge.
You don't
Absolutely.
mess with fire. It's a
No,
serious
you
business.
don't mess. Absolutely. So when you
There's
take that
respect.
iron from the fire and it's got that beautiful color there that you go to the anvil and you start working, now you are in charge because you are working the hot iron. You are now looking at the iron going from a yellow to an orange to a red to a gray. Back in the forge, it's not hot enough. Get it hot again, back to the anvil. And there's this cycle of of process that's just so authentic, and it really is such an adrenaline rush. You know, if you talk to some people who like to drive fast cars or drive fast motorcycles and talk to you, well, what's the experience like when you drive a car at 150 mile an hour? They'll say, oh, it's out of this world. That's something similar here at the forge.
So
There is such an excitement.
You're basically handing someone, is it a tongs with a piece of iron and a hammer?
Correct.
And you're
Absolutely,
hammering.
Dee.
Yeah. So
What I do is, for my guests who are not familiar with that there, for the first heat, my guests will use the hammer just to dial in, to get a feel for the hammer, working the hammer off the anvil and giving adding the texture to the moon pendant. And once we get the confidence up on 1 or 2 heats, now I will pass the tongs to the guest, and the guest will take the tongs and with the right hand will work the anvil with the tongs in the left hand, with their hammer in the right hand, and now they're on their own. They're working away in their own control. I'm watching very carefully and I can say, right, you've done it, well done. Enjoy that experience. You're in the zone now. You've got another 2 or 3 heats to keep at that and the pendant will be finished. And then I finish it off with a slightly dome finish on a small tool. And then we give it the patina by using a very old, ancient blacksmith's finish, boiled linseed oil, turpentine and beeswax.
Okay.
So that's going back ancient old. So, hey, I won't question something that's worked for a long, long time. It comes to my world, I'm able to work it, and it works beautiful because when I have the iron hot and we work the boiled linseed oil and the turpentine and the beeswax, it gives a beautiful patina, which is a very authentic, very old finish to a piece that has considerable age in the subject matter from which I work. And that works extremely well. It's a wonderful harmony between the finish and the period piece that I work on itself.
And that's quite dark, isn't it? That color.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. So in addition to that, all of which sounds amazing, I believe you might be feeding us and watering us as well.
Oh, to the banqueting hall, my friends, where the great banquet is set. Yes, indeed.
You've got a fire,
when you think about
it, throwing a bit of food onto it.
Oh, without a doubt. You see, again, a most important aspect of the forge, because where I am here in Bohermeen, only a mile up the road is the great hill of Fon, where one of the great kings of Tara is laid to rest, a man by the name of Niall of the 9 Hostages. Now, I have one of my dishes at the forge, and it's on the early bird menu, or the early bard menu, beg your pardon, not the early bird menu. And the name of the dish is called Niall of the 9 Sausages. So the banquet is so important, and here's a good example, and here's the angle of which I come from at this. We have to think of ancient Ireland. We have to think of the celebrations where it was social, where it was conversation, where there was laughter, where there was music, where there was dance. Absolutely critically important. If my friends and ourselves, if we went to the Hill of Tara right now and we looked at the sign right beside the statue of St. Patrick, and on that sign it says, the Great Banqueting Hall. Well, the Great Banqueting Hall at Tara looks like right now consists of 2 banks of clay going 300 foot long, 30 feet between the 2 banks of clay, facing in a north-south direction. Carol, can you guess what occupied the space between the 2 banks of clay?
Surely not a table.
Absolutely 100% right, my friend. Top marks. A banqueting table occupied the space between the 2 banks of clay, going for approximately 300 foot long.
Wow.
Can you imagine what that table looked like. If we think of Imbolc, if we think of Bealtaine, if we think of Lunasa or Samhain or even the Solstice, can you imagine the clans coming from Cork or from Kerry on the back of a horse that spent over 3 months getting to the sacred Tara because they're representing the clans of the south from Munster, because they want to have prayer, they want to give thanks because of maybe a super year in the context of the food that was produced, or maybe they're coming in context of private prayer with regards ceremony because the sovereignty goddess Eru may not have given the bountiful harvest that the clans would have been used to. So the elders within them tribes would say, look at sons, look at daughters, get on your horse, get to Tara, get to Uisneach, have the prayer and pray for a better year or better health for the clans. And that pilgrimage now is rewarded tenfold by, again, a bountiful harvest. So if we think of the very core of the operation at Tara coming to the forge here, where I have at the minute a banqueting table going 31 feet long. I measured it there about 2 months ago, 31 feet long. And I have the thrones and I have the benches. So I create that banqueting atmosphere here at the forge that when we're working away and we're all outside enjoying the ambience of the outdoors, and there can be a tremendous appetite generated by working your hands and being outside. I remember I had a lady and her husband, Michael, and I had a frying pan of about 14 sausages, and the frying pan was full to capacity of sausages sitting on an open fire here at the forge. And the lady says, we're never going to eat all of that. Well, this lady, she consumed 8 large sausages on her own with brown bread. And she says, I can't believe I just ate all that. When you're outside, there's a totally different taste, totally different aroma. It's a different experience versus going inside to have a meal. If it's outdoor based, it's totally different. It's much more enjoyable. It's much more authentic. I want to keep it authentic for the very subject that I work on, and that's very dear to me, ancient Ireland, the ancient past.
Yeah, love it. I have a question for you before we
Go ahead, Dee.
jump into the next. You said people traveling up, we'll say, from Cork. Yeah.
Yes.
To give thanks, probably taking 3 months. Is that voluntary to go on that pilgrimage, or do they to get to Tara? Was there a system of you go, you know what I mean? The other clan don't, or literally it's whoever rocks up.
Well, what happens there, Dee, is, and if you think about it in a little bit more detail, if we think of the words spirituality and faith, can you imagine the clans in Cork and in Kerry that have that substantial distance away from Hill of Tara, Hill of Uisneach? But word among the clans is saying, oh, right, okay, the harvest was poor, or the harvest has been consistently poor for the last 5 or 6 or 7 years. What seems to be the matter? Now, these people are very religious. They have their spirituality. They do firmly believe that there's an upset with the gods and the goddesses. The goddess Anya, the sovereignty goddess Eru of the land, Eru where Ireland gets her name, the very ground where the seed is planted. Now, if you can imagine when the elders of the clans would say, right, they had an extraordinary meeting with the elders among the villages or communities, and they've elected the strongest people in the families. You've got young warriors, young ladies that are well strong, well fit to climb onto a horse and to navigate coming up from Ireland, coming up from the south of Ireland, heading to the Hill of Tara or Uisneach for over a 3-month period, because they've got this survival instinct. They're incredibly well adapted to hunting and foraging, so they're self-contained. It's a gift to be able to navigate, in the daylight, and then to prepare a shelter or a shack, have that sleep to recover the system, back on the horse again. Now, can you imagine when the clans all of a sudden come on site at Uisneach or come on site at Tara, where the clans of Tara look? Now, straight away you are identified by the horses, by the horse leatherware, the saddlery, by the ceremonial dress that you're dressed in. Even the shield would have a certain design on it that the elders at Tara would look and say, oh wow, we've got clans here from Munster. And then there's a conversation struck up, and there's a very warm welcome to the people of Munster that's just arrived at Tara. And they'll explain to the clans here at Tara saying, yeah, we've spent the last 3 months on our horses coming up from Kerry, coming up from Cork, using the smooth corridors. And we are now here in the context of ceremony, celebrating our prayer and everything to do with spirituality. Now, when those people made that substantial track all the way from the south and are on Tara, the people of Tara look at them and saying, wow, that is so admirable. The gods and goddesses will really look upon you with so favorable because your intention was so good. You genuinely made the effort. You spent that time and commitment, a very personal sacrifice and a big, big commitment to get from Cork to Tara. And now you're here feasting with the clans, having the conversation, possibly engaging with trade, that you're bringing animal skins from the southern regions. You're possibly trading for grain or wheat here in Leinster because of the substantial productive soil in Leinster. So now there's a trade with the clans. So now the 3 months spent coming to Tara and the 3 months spent going back home, when those people would arrive back home at the latter end of the year and they were welcomed in by the elders, now they have news of Ulster, Connacht or Leinster coming into Munster. They have the latest gossip, but they also have the trade that they negotiated with, and now they have a substantial, what would you say, gain regarding animal hide or whatever it is of the day that's traded between the clans. And when this is brought back south, your efforts was hugely you looked upon so favorably that it was a heroic thing to do. It would have been an incredible feat to do, but you would have been looked on so highly. What a lovely thing to do with the respect from your own people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for himself?
I've created quite an atmosphere here in the van with all my candles.
Yes,
it's quite romantic.
Show us the atmosphere.
Yeah, no, it's very busy now, and it's very exciting. I mean, people are genuinely reaching out, and they are seeing Ireland. They are seeing an authentic experience. There's nobody doing what I'm doing. It's actually quite overwhelming, the scope that can be investigated and developed here. And I'm very excited when I have my good friends here online and they looking in, because when you are enjoying an ancient and mythical Ireland, how about becoming it? When you become it, there's a totally different dynamic. Like if I said to you, my friends, if I talk about, I made a claymore last year, which was for a private commission, Brian Boru's ceremonial claymore sword. Now, if you think of Braveheart, if you think of the great claymore William Wallace was using there during the film, that's exactly what the type of sword I was working on. 6 weeks was spent on one piece of steel to bring it to a mirror finish. And you know what? It's pretty amazing. Like the guests that were out at the forge here was looking at that weapon. Now, if I said to you, think about the words Brian Boru ceremonial claymore sword, that sounds terrifying. It sounds incredibly interesting. But you have to conjure an image in your mind to think of what that thing looks like. So it's up to your own imagination. Whereas if some of my friends was here and I just hand you the sword in your hands without saying any words, straight away your instincts will go, wow, look at this thing. This is incredible. And then you have it in your hands and you feel the weight of it and you feel the ferocity of it, or your imagination goes down another rabbit hole of thinking, wow, can you imagine what this thing would do being worked in a context of anger or trying to defend. And there's a great example when you see William Wallace, when they're taking on the Longshanks. Like the claymore was never a classical sword for one-to-one combat. It's too heavy, it's too long, it's too slow. It was an absolutely perfect weapon for sneaking up behind someone and having one whack with this blade, and that's all it took. You could have somebody's head rolling off like a turnip, like the film, or you could have someone there, they have 2 legs, now they have 1.
They're not going
so
too
again,
far.
It's pretty amazing, So again, it's all to do with the dynamics.
Mm.
Yeah, I was at one of the reenactments at down near Quinn in Clare. We've got Craiganawan,
Oh,
And there
very
was a
good.
reenactment of a kind of a battle between the O'Briens and the MacDonalds, or whatever the rival clans were in the day. And you
Very
can,
good.
in some small sense, get a feel for what it must have been like. But
Absolutely.
it's lacking that level of authenticity until you step into it yourself.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the magic with the forge because, as I say, when the fires are lit and the ambience is set regarding the smoke and the aroma and the taste and the air and that sound and the sight, it really is. It's quite an honor to be able to say, yeah, this is what I do full time. It's a blessing.
Well, it's
With
certainly our privilege to invite you to
mm,
be part of what we're offering
Ah,
and the
you're very good. You're all very
experience,
welcome. Very
and
welcome, my
we
friends.
we absolutely love it.
and I have one question for you. You're always interested in the ironwork, but the
Yes.
mythical Ireland part, when did that come in?
I have been a fan and still am of the great Courtney Davis. I reckon since about 11 or 12 years of age, Courtney's journals in my hands. It was just like a child reading the Beano, looking through Courtney's work. And
Yeah.
when you look at Courtney's work, you can be whisked away with the interlocking ribbon, the triskells, the murals, the flora, the fauna, the gods, the goddesses. It just brings you away to a completely other world. And then you can close the book and go, oh, wow, that was just incredible. Now, if you are the artistic minded, and I had this conversation with a great friend of mine, Sean Fitzgerald, absolute gifted artist. Love Sean to bits. He's one of my favorite artists because he's so authentic regarding his style of Celtic art. If you've seen 20 images of Celtic art, and I could spot Courtney Davis straight away, I can spot Sean Fitzgerald straight away, and the same with Jim Fitzpatrick, by the way. These
Mhm.
gentlemen are absolutely totally unique styles, and there's such it's just a cauldron of goodness when you step into their world. I said to Sean one time, and I said to him, Sean, if you can draw it, I can make it. And he lit up when I said that. Yeah, it's as simple as that. Because he's got now the last battle of Moitura, one of Sean's works there, and one of that great books. It is absolutely incredible. And I have it there above in the office there. I have to have it in my hand at least once a week because I am just fixated going through the imagery. Now, if you enjoy written work and you enjoy reading words to create a story, I'm the artist who will enjoy the visual. When I see a sword, I can make that. When I can see a shield, I can make that. When I see a chariot, I can make that. And I've no problem with saying that at all because I can make that. The magic is, well, how long will it take to make that? And what resource do you need in order to make it happen? And that's the excitement here at the Forge because there's so much happening there in the context of the props and how the prop will develop. Like, I'm so looking forward now. The vision for my journey here, when the guests arrive at the Forge, the first thing we do is get them into wardrobe. You got to dress like the clans or the ancient world if you're going to visit an ancient world. And you become personalized where you have a timeout and leave all your troubles one side and come out to the Forge and let your hair down. Put your phone one side, tell mum and dad or nearest and dearest that you've arrived and you're safe and sound and we'll talk to you soon, and put that digital detox in action and all of a sudden become the ancestors.
Put
And
on your
that's that.
sheepskin.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, put on the sheepskin. And as I say, from a very early age, Courtney Davis was an absolutely hero of mine. I've no qualms about saying that at all. And when you have these iconic and inspirational people, they become heroes. And heroes are very important in everyone's life because you looked up to them. You look up to these people and they just give you that guidance. And all the nonsense that goes on every day, you don't pass the slightest bit of remarks because you've got to focus. You've got your attention with someone who can inspire. And when you have these people who can inspire, brace yourself. Look what can happen. And that's what's happening in my world now, so it's very exciting.
Fantastic, fantastic. You mentioned there the Battle of Moytora and
Yes,
getting images of the Firbolg and the Fomorians and the Tuatha De
yes.
Danann. Tell us a little bit more about that.
I'm not too familiar with the actual story itself. All I'm looking at it from Sean's perspective, from Sean's
Yes.
written work.
Okay.
Yeah, because in Sean's work there, I look at the shields and the swords, and he's got some absolutely incredible sword and blade work that I'm so looking forward that I can take that image there and I can get that and I can start working on my own blade work regarding the bronze or the brass foundry where I make up the patterns. I can pour the molten bronze or the molten brass into the pattern mold, create that body of the sword, polish it all up, prepare the blade, and there you go. If Anthony Murphy or some of the great storytellers, they could talk to you for another 2 hours about the Battle of Moitura and the Flamorians. A little bit over my head unless I go and study it. So there's no point in saying I know it. I don't. I'd have to research the story.
Now that I think of it, we're going to invite Aidan. A shout out to Aidan if he's watching us. The tornado fire performer who's going to
Oh,
come
very
on,
good.
and he tells the story of Lou and Lou Nasser at
Wow.
the Battle of Moitora. So that'll dovetail beautifully with his offering. Tell
Brilliant.
me a little bit more about where you are in Meath. Were you born and reared locally in the Boyne Valley? Are you a Meath man
Yes.
originally? So
Yes, absolutely. Born
what
and
was the
raised here in the little village of Bohermeen on a little farm between the towns of Navan and Kells. So blessed to be here, my friends.
right?
Bohermeen, as we said, we explained the story of Bohermeen and the smooth road, the Slieve Ashel corridor. We are a mile away from the hill of Faughan, again, the resting place of the great king, one of the great kings of Tara, Niall of the Nine Hostages. We are, I would say, 13 minutes away from the hill of Tlachtga, the hill of Ward, the
Yep.
origins, the original ceremonial site for the celebrations of Samhain, where Samhain would have been celebrated thousands of years ago. Of course, Samhain, the birthplace of Halloween, when Samhain went to America. We are about 5 miles away from the townland of Teltown, where a very famous ancient Celtic games would have taken place, the
Right.
Tailteann Games. So
Yes.
again, the clans coming from Connacht, Leinster and Munster and Ulster coming to the little townland of Teltown to sport against each other, to find the strongest warriors and all that type of carry on. Again, very, very sacred
Was that where they
because
did the stone lifting, Tom?
that's exactly it, Carl. Yes, the sheaf throwing, you know, and that's a very ancient. If you think of the Scotland High Games, very similar in the context of the ancient
Right.
clans and the ancient Celtic games. It's just the physicality, lifting the big stones, throwing the big stones, tossing the sheaf. Just games of strength and stamina.
Well,
And
this was
again, it's
all
only over
about
the road there, Teltown.
this was all about mating because the girls wanted to be with the strongest
Of
guys,
course.
right?
Yeah,
So it was a
again, because if you
competition
can
to
imagine,
prove your
yeah,
worth.
correct and right. Like you can imagine again, can you imagine the electricity between the masculine and the feminine in the context of those that are down as warriors, or you call yourself a warrior? Well, how good a warrior are you if you call yourself a warrior? Now, if you're seen with Celtic arm rings between your elbow and your shoulder, you've got some ranking like the military, like the US Marines and the lieutenants and the captains. So in ancient Celtic world, those arm rings would have defined your position in the ranks. But at the same times, how good were you as a warrior? And that would have been kind of given as an example there in the sports or the games, which was a very visual on front of the communities and the clans. Like you didn't want to make a show of yourself. If you were of a certain physicality and had a certain strength, and somebody says, "Wow, you look a big bloke, you look very strong," but if you hadn't got that strength in the context of demonstrating your strength by being able to pick up a big stone, by being able to throw it, you really are just a lot of talk. You don't deliver. You're not as good as you may think you are.
You've got to have
Whereas
the
if you
technique as well.
you got a technique, So, like when you think of Braveheart is a great example there, where Wallace and Hamish there, they're kind of sparring among a communal festivities there, where it's all jolly and dancing and music. But yet Wallace is testing Hamish with the stones. And of course, Wallace has been quite cute that it wasn't the size of the stone that mattered, it was the accuracy of the throw.
Very good.
What was the pronunciation of the place you mentioned, the Hill of Ward? I can't say it right.
Yes, the hill of Tlachtga.
Tlachtga is where
Yes.
a shout out to Fiona as well if she's watching. We're gonna have the is it the witch of the Hill of Ward? Was there a Cailleach connection or a goddess connection that Fiona brings to the
All right. Okay.
experience?
Very
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Tlachtga.
Well, it's a magical landscape there. It really is very, very special. I mean, when you think about it, if we talk about the ancient East, we talk about Newgrange, Nouth and Doubt, Four Knocks and Loch Crew, all burial passage tombs, which means it's a corridor entering a chamber, which is a gateway to the next world. Now, that's a correlation in the Boyne Valley here in the ancient East. When we think of Samhain, well, Samhain is that celebration where the veil is thinnest between this world and the next world. So if you can imagine in the ancient deities or the ancient clans where certain individuals passed on from this world and are now occupying the other world, so they've gone beyond the veil. Now, if Samhain was been celebrated, that means that the other world where the spirits of those individuals are nearest and dearest, but we can't see them. Their spirit is very close because the veil is very thin. That is a very, very special celebration for the Samhain celebration, the end of the Celtic year, the beginning of the new year.
This is very significant, and this is what's beautiful about what we're offering, Tom, because a lot of our beautiful people that are coming to us are, say, part of the Irish diaspora in Canada and America, and their great grandparents or their grandparents might have left this ancient
Oh,
magical
wow.
land.
Yeah.
And for them to come back and
Yes.
come to the wedge tombs and the stone circles and
Correct.
the castles and the
Yes.
abbeys
Yes.
and your forge, it's an emotional
It is.
experience for
There's
them
no
to
doubt.
reconnect with their ancestors.
Absolutely.
And
And
it's
I've had,
about, yeah,
I've had that experience at the Forge where my guests during the Samhain period, while they know of their nearest and dearest that are no longer with them, they do feel their presence almost sat beside them at the banqueting table because of the Samhain period, where the veil is thinnest, where they will have a private conversation, will have a private prayer and saying, hey, look, we miss you dearly, but we're getting on best we can. Please support, look over us and protect us. We ask for a little prayer. And they're quite happy to think like that
beautiful.
or pray like that. And that's a lovely reinforcing there, where, again, it's instilling the confidence. It's instilling the empowerment to say, no, you're not on your own. Your dearest and your nearest and dearest may not be with you in their physical context, but they are with you in their spirit world. And when you look to them in the favor and have a private prayer, that is tenfold regards the amount of luck that can be returned to you in your own private world, because all of a sudden, 3 months on, opportunities present themselves. Well, if you think about it in the spirituality, because you showed such respect during that period, that opportunity came round because of your respect. And that's a lovely thing to think like that, because there's always that, very positive engagement with a hugely respectful, thought about the nearest and dearest that are no longer with us. But please feel that they are with you in spirit during the Samhain period, and they are looking over you. You may not think it, but they most certainly are. And that's a very, very strong and empowering feeling to give people. I think it's a very special thing to do.
Yeah.
You seem to love Samhain. Is that one of your favorite Celtic festivals?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Samhain is absolutely, because when you think about it, if we think about Samhain in the context, we are now closing out a Celtic year. We're at the beginning of a new one. Well, it's very fair to say, well, how did that year go? Well, in bulk was quite refreshing. We have a very, enthusiastic and exciting springtime where there's a stretch in the evening. We have Bealtaine, where the seed is accepted to the ground. We have Lunasa, which is the gathering of the crops. And we look at the volume of crop that has been harvested. We look at the stores that are plentiful. We have plenty of berries, plenty of vegetables and fruits. We have animals that are fit for slaughter. We have barley, oats and wheat to abundance. The sheaves can be made into numerous items for the thatched huts. There's bountiful wood. Everything that nature has given is now storage and appreciated. So now that when it is dark and when it is windy and muddy and wet, the enthusiasm or the optimism within the clans couldn't be better, because it's been an incredible year. Can you imagine sitting in a hut, with your family, a good fire going, there's food on the table, your bed is dry and it's comfortable and warm, and you're in good health. and you're looking forward to the Imbolc again, where the whole wheel starts again, where again nature's enthusiasm shows with the daffodils and the snowdrops merging from the banks. The colour is returning to the hedgerow and the trees begin to bud. Oh, that's a magical time. But we've navigated the difficult months because we've had good attitude, we've had good stocks, we have good health, and we've worked as a community together to get ourselves through those difficult weeks. And now we're celebrating the new year. Like, the solstice is only a couple of weeks away now, and that's an incredibly exciting time because the days are not getting any darker any earlier. We now have a kind of like a lull in the time of the evening where it gets dark, and now increments of 1 minute at a time over every day until it becomes noticeable in the middle of February, where we have a grand stretch in the evening.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Hugely significant.
Yes.
So, have we any other questions for Tom, Dee, or Tom? Is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
Oh, wow. Do you know what? I look at the
expect?
time, and do you know, as the hour has gone so quickly.
The hour has flown.
I've had an absolute ball. Could we go for another hour?
We probably could, Tom.
I could talk all day, dear. I'm like the canary. You have to throw a blanket over me to shut myself up. But anyway.
Or sheepskin.
Are we bringing Niall of the 9 sausages? We keep going. I love it.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's been an absolute pleasure, my friends. I'm so thankful for the opportunity. I really enjoyed that chat and conversation and discussion there because, again, what it does, it just highlights the magic that can be created by not just reading an ancient story of an ancient Ireland. Let's become it, make it real. And that's the dynamic that the guests will have here, because it's a totally different transformation when you have people sitting at a banqueting hall, enjoying a very authentic ancient experience. And I'm very blessed and privileged to be able to have that here. So I'm very thankful. So to your listeners there, thank you so much, my friends. So looking forward to having you all out at a time whenever that's convenient. And to Dee and to Carol, sincere thanks again for the opportunity here. Very good to Gobhá.
Oh, thank
Tell
you.
us,
Thank
where
you.
can people find you in the meantime, Tom?
Well, you can find me on Instagram, and my handle is ongobha with AN_GOBHA. So that's ongobha, which is the Irish for the blacksmith. And then I have my own website, which is just basically up and going over the last 3 or 4 weeks. And that's www.ongobha.ie. That's ANGOBHA.ie. You're very welcome to look into my world there and see the raw August hula boolia. Good fun, great honest crack with the guests coming to the forge.
We'll link all of that below the video for everyone.
You're very kind. You're very
kind. Put a shout out to Chris as well, in case Chris is watching, on the fantastic work he's done on your website as well.
Absolutely, yeah. The boys at Web Builders there, and Chris, Liam and Roisin, top marks. Really appreciate that. First and foremost with these people, they have to understand Gobhá. They must dial into Gobhá's frequency and be able to tune in. It's almost like buying a very expensive guitar. If you've spent a lot of money on a guitar and you don't know how to tune it, well, it's not a whole lot of good. So once you learn how to tune it and learn how to play it, now you got the benefit of all that money invested in that instrument. That's very much the case here. When I have those people tuned into my world, they're very excited on the development of Gobhá and bringing the product to the public forum, shall we say. Like we know the flights coming into Dublin Airport every day. A lot of people are coming to the Boyne Valley, very excited to land in Ireland's ancient east, like you guys down there in Limerick there, the Wild Atlantic Way as well. A very exciting aspect. And Ireland as a whole, as an island, we are so blessed to have what we have and who we are with our ancestral and cultural past. It's such a cauldron of joy. It really is a privilege to be part of it.
It
Absolutely.
is. And without us actually holding that, it'll disappear.
Correct.
So this is the beauty of us dancing together, shall we say.
Oh, without a doubt. There's no doubt about it. And long life and good health to dance for a lot longer.
So I guess all that remains is for us to thank you for your time and energy, Tom.
Yeah, very good, Carol and Dee, my friends. Thank you so much, my dears.
And
Boyne Valley sends a lot of blessings this solstice time. We're looking forward to hooking up soon.